the split. Mizzy in front of the 100. Crone goes up the inside and Crone takes the lead in the Kilmore. Crone draws clean out from Mizzy. It's a Queensland victory. Crone beat Mizzy.
Alrighty guys, so now we're going to go through runner by runner, sort the pretenders from the contenders, the golden slipper. We did it with all the spring features. We actually did quite well. Believe we got 4 out of 5 or 4 out of 6, whatever it was. I know we got plenty of winners. We had Without a Fight, the Caulfield, Think About It, the Everest, Obam, the Golden Eagle, Zardozi, Oaks. So let's keep it going, mate.
Yeah, looking forward to this one. Probably one of the better fields I've seen for a 2-year-old race. Probably because we've been a bit more into the 2-year-olds this year. We've really looked at it. We've gone to the trials. We've seen these horses before they've even had a run. So looking forward to this race. Not too much of a punting one for me personally, but more of as a bit of a fan kind of golden slipper. I really like watching this one. But in particular, I won't be betting too heavily in it.
Fair enough. It is historically one of the more open races in Australia. You've got the Melbourne Cup, and then you've got the Slipper, which is also very, very open. But the thing with the Slipper, there always seems to be that horse that's like the sure thing. People see him run in November, and they're like, "There's your Slipper winner. It's done." And then usually always someone swoops. They get up at like $15. And then you'll find the people come out of the woodwork and say, yeah, I had it on at like $200. I'm a genius. There will be a stat when we go through the key facts and stats that shows how, the favourites aren't always cracked up to be. And it's good to look for the roughies. And it's a very open field because we've boiled it down basically to, everyone says it's a 2-horse race. You've either got Stormboy or Switzerland, or you're looking at something over $10. What are your thoughts? Is it a 2-horse race?
It's never a 2-horse race in a 2-year-old race. I think Gay's obviously lined up very, very well for this. I think she'll be very hard to beat, and I think she's going in pretty confident. Personally, I think Stormboy is the one to beat. I think Switzerland's done a lot, but Stormboy's put no leg wrong at all. Looked the best out of any 2-year-old I've ever seen so far. But like you said, in these 2-year-olds races, someone can get up and swoop and have the run of their career in their short career. So we'll wait and see. It's not a 2-horse race in my opinion, but Stormboy looks going to be hard to beat.
100%. There's a few live chances in my opinion. Obviously, Stormboy and Switzerland being the best of them. We're not idiots. But don't discount some of the runners in this field. Who 2 years ago said Fireburn was going to win?
Yeah.
We certainly didn't. Who last year said Shinzo was going to win off of the week back up? Not a lot of people. So, don't be surprised if a roughie gets up here. And I know there'll be a few people crying because they'll have Stormboys locked in at over 20s. They'll have Switzerland's locked in at 80s. But, that's racing and that's 2-year-olds. Like last week, again, who thought Double and Down was going to win the Pago and is now here in the Slipper. That's just the way 2-year-olds are. So is there anything else that you want to touch on before we really get stuck in, do a dive deep on this race?
I'm pretty happy to get straight into it, mate.
Okay, mate. We'll just unpack the speed map just quickly, punters. We'll try and whack it up on the screen there for you as well. So if you'll see, you've got Holmes A Court and Straight Charge and Fully Lit and Shangri-La Express. They're the ones that are all sort of well drawn for what they would want to do to really push to the front. Then you've got Stormboy, Lady of Camelot and Pross to really stalk that pace. They'll probably also have the option, of course, being 3 Gay Waterhouse trained. They could just go straight to the front as well. They have that option. They can either take that sit right behind the leaders, or they could be the actual ones leading them around the turn. Then you got the Dublin Downs, the Colemans, the Espionages, the Switzerlands and the Anisas of the world to really sit at the top of that midfield and stalk the pace and try and show their hand late. Then you've got your swoopers, your Rue de Royales, Traffic Wardens, Manal, Hayasugi and Bodyguards. They're the ones that are going to be hoping they go far too fast up front and then really cart them into the race and set it up for them to tire late and run over the top. And they're all at big prices as well. So if you're thinking a swooper is, those are the ones that are going to be running on late that you'll want to be looking at. But, mate, when it comes to the barriers, very, very interesting. All the Waterhouse horses drawn almost perfect, you'd say. But you got to think, in a race when she has so many chances and you've got the potentially $60 million boy there in Storm Boy, do you think there'll be a bit of team riding? You reckon the instructions will be clear the way, let Storm Boy get through at all costs?
I don't think so. I think Gay will say, run your horses the way they need to be run. I don't think there's a lot of prize money in it for the jockey as well. I don't think many jockeys are going to go, oh yeah, let's give Ryan more to win here, give him all the money. It's not what's going to be said. But it's definitely going to be, Gay's definitely got her chances written down, but there's no team riding in this, I don't think. It's just too much money in the race for a jockey to hands out go, yeah, I'll do my bit for the team and win no money. So
there's been a few that have suggested, if Storm Boy is sluggish and misses the start, like he has a couple of times so far, that other riders will acknowledge that and sort of just, pull it back a little bit, clear the way so he can muster back up and get through. But I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that's the case. If we see it, we see it, and it wouldn't be a surprise because, again, money talks, and if there are deals going around, who knows? But like you said, boiled down to it, Gay just wants a win here. Obviously, ideally, it would be Storm Boy considering the even more amount of money that they could gain from that, but a win's a win. So if they have to send them all forward, fair enough. And you'd think that most of them will be sent forward, and if Storm Boy gets shuffled back, then it's up to Ryan Moore to get him out of that position, find a gap and get him back up on that speed, or he was going to have to swing wide late and cross them all. But we'll get into it more when we discuss them runner by runner, sorting the pretenders from the contenders. But for now, mate, let's go through the key facts and stats that you need to know before making your pick in the Golden Slipper.
9 of the last 30 winners have jumped from Barrier 1, including the last 2 winners, Shinzo and Fireburn.
Barrier 9 hasn't produced a winner since 1967.
11 of the last 14 winners have raced in either the Todman or the Riesling Stakes.
A horse hasn't won coming off a run in Victoria in the last 25 years.
26 of the last 30 horses have placed in their last run.
Only 5 favourites have won the race in the last 15 years.
32 of the last 35 winners have won at least 2 races in the lead up to the Slipper.
And only 4 horses in the last 35 years have remained undefeated to go on and win the Slipper. So you look at it, mate, there's a couple of interesting ones in there. If you go by history, you need to win at least 2 races in order to be winning the Slipper. So you're looking at the likes of your...
Storm Boy, Fully Lit.
Yeah, Storm
Shangri-La
Boy's done
Express.
it. Switzerland's done it, of course. Look at some of the ones,
Most of them have.
Prost, that would rule him out, technically. Yep. Lady of Camelot, that would rule her out, technically. Espionage as well, if it gains a start. But the one that I'm interested in is the undefeated one. 4 in the last 35. You're looking at Storm Boy, you're looking at Switzerland, the 2-horse race. So history says that they don't come around very often that undefeated horses go on and win the Slipper. Usually they have a little bit of a slip up in the lead up to the race before they come through and run their big one. So that's really interesting in my mind. Also, of course, the horse that hasn't won coming off a run in Victoria. So all of those Blue Diamond runners, if you're looking at history, maybe it's not looking likely that they're going to be running the good race. That's Lady of Camelot, that's Hayasugi. And also, the big one is Todman Riesling. That's the big form race. Out of all the win and you're in races, and it makes the most sense, that's the 2 weeks into the Slipper run. So that's your Switzerlands. That's your straight charges. Okay? Those are the ones that you really like to have a look at here because they've sort of had the prime setup. 2 weeks in, which is traditional with horses, that's the best setup usually. You've got Storm Boy here coming off what I believe is a 4-week break. A little bit different. Also hasn't had a trial in the meantime to tick him over. So will he be a little underdone compared to the others? Probably not because he's Gay Waterhouse trained, but that's just something you have to consider in these races.
Yeah, 100%. I think personally, Gay's set up Storm Boy perfectly. They've obviously gone in with a plan. She knows her 2-year-olds really, really well.
They would have been keeping him fit. Like they keep him fit no matter what. They don't need to send him to trials to keep him fit.
So I don't know. Do you want to get straight into the contenders and pretenders, mate?
Yeah, mate, it's interesting. I'll let you have a bit of a dribble about Stormboy. I know that you're pretty passionate, as am I. But Stormboy is your first runner, $2.15 to win, $1.28 to place. Is he a pretender or a contender?
If you say pretender, you're stupid. A contender, probably the leading contender, obviously. I know a lot of the stats are going against favourites in this race, but to be honest, was only 4 horses in the last 35 years. This is one of the better ones we've seen in the last, I don't know, definitely in the last 5 or 6 years.
He's
that
a
we've watched
4-year-old
it.
in a 2-year-old's body.
It's crazy. He's won. He's got that swagger about him that he's just absolutely dominant. It's really he's a class above 2-year-olds that I've seen. I've never seen in my time. I know it's not been as long as other people that go into it, but he just looks, especially that Millions run, just it's class above. And I haven't seen many 2-year-old horses line up at $1.16, I think, in a race.
Oh, yeah.
And win pretty easily. So obvious contender. Not a bad price if you really want to get into it. Like you probably, if he wins, if he doesn't retire, you won't get another price close to $2. So you'll go down to $1.50 minimum. So maximum, sorry. So yeah, definite contender.
Yeah, he's a contender. I'm not an idiot. Let me just say that first and foremost. What else is to say about this boy that hasn't been said already? Is he a contender? Yes. But is he a betting proposition at $2.15? I'm willing to say no. I would rather have him win without my money, purely because I think the negatives outweigh the positives here. Everyone said, oh, barrier 2, great barrier. It's statistically one of the least successful barriers in history. It also gives him the opportunity that if he does miss the kick, which he has a couple of times, we spoke about it, he has the opportunity to get shuffled quite far back, get 4 or 5 pairs back, and then get stuck on the fence on a slightly wet Rosehill track that could be very mushy on the fence there, so he'll have to get off it as best as he can. He might end up in that box and not be able to get out. He'll have to be really, really super Ryan Moore to be able to get him into a spot where he gets a clear run to the line, because especially if he gets shuffled to the back, pretty sure all the other jockeys that aren't running for Gay Waterhouse are going to say, oh, let's block him. Let's not let, the $2 favourite have his own way here. So if he misses the kick, I think it's just a recipe for disaster as well. Throw in the fact that only, 3 horses in the last 40 years have started this short. They all lost, by the way. And the 4 weeks between runs could have him a little underdone, maybe. Probably not because he's Waterhouse trained, but there is that possibility to consider. But honestly, on the day, it's just up to the jump. If he jumps clean and musters to the front or musters to that 1 pair back and sits off whoever's leading, I think potentially just game over. He's just going to storm past them, pun not intended, in the last 100 metres. But if he misses that kick, I think it could be game over for the other reason. It's just pure going down to the jump. And in that reason, I think those negatives far outweigh positives for a $2.15 chance. That's why I won't be betting on him. But of course, he is the one to beat, and I won't be surprised if he's getting up. I just can't possibly entertain putting my money on him. As we move to Fully Lit, another Waterhouse contender here, mate. $31 to win, $6 to place. Gets the magic barrier 1.
I'll give it pretender just because I can't go through all of them and say contender. Better chances in this race. I know it's got that magic barrier 1, but I think even Waterhouse knows she's got better horses in this race than Fully Lit. So pretender for me.
I'm going to say contender just because, spoiler alert, all the Waterhouse horses are going to be contenders for me because duh. But definitely would be at the lower end of the scale for the Waterhouse chances. I would think probably the last of them. He's just got a completely different form line to the rest of the horses in this race. Won the English Millennium and then was kept on ice all the way to the Black Opal, where it got unstuck a bit and then went down, and it was a very thin Black Opal as well, so very interesting that it wasn't even able to get the job done there. But it was a few weeks between runs. I believe it was, again, 4 weeks between runs without even really having much work put into him in between that. But I mean, gets the barrier 1, has quick sustained speed. Crazier things have happened. I think he's a must for exotics. We move to Shangri-La Express, another Waterhouse runner, $26 to win, $5.50.
Yeah, this is a contender in my eyes, one of the better roughie chances. I think there's a bit of a forgotten about horse,
100%.
I think. It hasn't really put too much wrong. Last 2 runs have been behind Switzerland. The one before in particular was probably a bit more impressive than its last start. It only finishing a length behind to a horse that's said to be in a 2-horse race. So it's a very forgotten about horse, and I can really respect punters that want to have a bet on this horse. So this colt's pretty good. Last start just behind Straight Charge and Switzerland, who in my eyes are heavy contenders as well. So if you like a punters and you want to have one of those longer distance, I think Shangri-La Express is one of my better roughies for this race.
Yeah, contender, 100% agree with you. He's a roughie I could really sink my teeth into. Drawn perfectly, comes out of the Todman, which we've gone through, is usually the form race to go off. Despite having to turn the tables on Switzerland here after losing to him twice, like you said, you put it perfectly. He hasn't done anything wrong in his career, yet he's $26 to win here. That's crazy to me, especially $5.50 to run a place. Silliness. I'll be having a bet on him to place for sure. If it comes down to it at the end, he's super tough. He'll keep on kicking. He can easily find his way into the money. And at $5.50, licking your lips. Definite contender. We move to Rue de Royale. $126 to win, $18 to place.
Yeah, no chance. I think, it's running for a bit of prize money here, but won't be winning.
Yeah, pretender. Only in the race because better horses didn't accept. Still a maiden for a reason. Would be complete utter shock if it got up. I'd love to actually go back through history and see if a maiden ever won the Golden Slipper. It'd be an interesting stat to find. We move to Traffic Warden, $34 to win, $6.50 to place.
Pretender, like you said, it's always hard. That Melbourne form, where is it? Hasn't the last 25 years coming out of Victoria hasn't won. So that's definitely a telling point. I think it's for 2-year-olds as well. You don't know how they're going to travel and stuff. So obviously you can see here that they don't travel very well. I think there's better chances Pretender.
I think it's strange to see him in the race, considering he's already won the VRC size up to 1,400 metres. So stepping back to 1,200 metres, I know it's not out of the ordinary to see them there, but it's still an odd setup. It doesn't happen often, hasn't happened in the last few years, because usually they just get put on ice to potentially go to the Sydney Sires or the Champagne or those longer races down in Melbourne for the 2-year-olds. But he'll be one of the ones running on, like I mentioned when we went through the speed map. So if those leaders go far too fast up front, he'll be one to watch late, but place chance at best for me, so I can't have him as a contender. We move to Straight Charge, mate, another one of the Waterhouse runners, $11 to win, $3.50. What are your thoughts?
Another contender here, obviously another mid-price kind of one that I do respect a bet on as well, falling a length behind Switzerland last start, and before that, 2 wins before that and then a second place, and it's been trialling and it's won every trial it started in. So not too bad. Definitely one that you can respect a bet on. I personally won't be on it, but it's definitely a contender in my eye.
Yeah, contender for me. Has to turn the tables on Switzerland, but arguably can definitely do it. Was hard done by in the Todman when All Inclusive tried to steal it, tried to do a Pride of Jenny and ran stupid sectionals and just couldn't hold up with it. Straight Charge had to try and follow it and then tired late because of having to follow that ridiculous sectionals that it was running. And essentially it handed Switzerland the race because Switzerland was able to just sit off them, get the cart and then run past them in the end. One of the best each way chances in the race, in my opinion. Straight Charge, definitely. Could be a goer here. We move to Switzerland, the other horse in the 2-horse race. $4.60 to win, $1.90 to place. Pretender, contender, Nick?
Contender, 3 wins on the trot. Only thing that really doesn't get me going about this horse is it hasn't really won anything convincingly. It's won 3 races pretty nicely, I'd say kind of comfortably, but nothing that's gone wow, this 2-year-old's serious. He's probably the leading thing to stop Stormboy, but I think that's where I split the two, where Stormboy's won so convincingly and so well as a 2-year-old that I just go, wow, this horse is something special. Where Switzerland it's 3 and it's looked very good, and it won the Todman obviously, but there's no real spark for me to put my money there. Fair
enough. I think he's a much better betting proposition than Stormboy, and that's why he's likely going to be the one that ends up with my money. Comes here undefeated, coming off 2 really smart lead-up runs, so he'll be nice and ready to peak after winning that Todman, which we've mentioned, always strong form for the slipper. He gets J-Mac and a perfect barrier to do whatever the camp want. They can push up and sit on the leaders' tails, or they can just sit back at the top of the pack. And he should get onto someone's back in transit, break clear of the pack late, and can easily chase down whoever's leading. Bruce McAvaney came out and said, I've pictured it now, it's going to happen. Stormboy is going to be the one breaking away at the top of the straight. He's going to be out and away and it's gone. 200 metres comes up, you see Switzerland break away and make that chase down, and then the race is on. It's a race for the ages. It's what racing's all about. He's already predicted that it's going to be neck and neck down the line. Is Switzerland going to be able to chase down Stormboy? I 100% agree with him, but I think he can. Okay, I'm confident he's going to be in the finish, and at the $4.60 compared to that $2.15, I'm much more interested in Switzerland. And the main thing I'm really excited with Switzerland, he just looks so strong, so tough, so smart. I think he's going to be one of those ones that actually has a bit of a prolonged career instead of just doing these 2-year-old races then going to the breeding barn.
That's where I agree with you, and that's where I think it's a bit of a Coolangatta situation where Coolangatta just...
She'll only get better with age.
She started off pretty well, Coolangatta. She was... I don't know if she was the favourite, but she was one of the favourites.
She was the boom horse going into that race.
Into the slipper and finished second. And then as she went on, she just got better. I think Switzerland's giving me the same kind of vibes, but Stormboy's all in on this slipper, and that's the difference, I think.
You got to look back. Who's come second in the slipper in the last few years? Coolangatta, Cylinder, Animo, all horses that got better with age. But yeah, I think he'll be even better up to the mile as well, which gets me excited. The last few years we haven't seen a Coolmore miler. They've all been a 2-year-old that's gone to the breeding barn straight away, or they've been sprinters. So I'm looking forward to seeing a Coolmore miler go around. But yeah, we'll move on, mate. Bodyguard, $34 to win, $7 to place.
I'd say Pretender. I think this was one of the more expensive horses that went through the sales, I'm pretty sure. I think it was one of the $1 million ones. Just didn't really do too much either, going down in Flemington as well. 1, it's 2 down there, and then coming up to the 1200 against Switzerland didn't look that impressive, falling 3 lengths behind in the end. So I just think there's a bit better options, and my money will go better places than Bodyguard.
Yeah, look, Pretender for me, solid enough run in the Todman, made a bit of ground late. It'll take a bit of fitness from it. But I mean, again, he's one of those ones where I can only see him running second or third, so I can't have him as a contender because I just can't see him, returning to the winner's stall. We moved to Double and Down, winner of the Pago, mate, last week. $51 to win, $8.50 to place.
Yeah, Pretender. There's better chances. I'm not going to speak too much about it.
Yeah, I know that Shinzo won that race en route to victory, but this horse is no Shinzo, and I think he had a biased track last week. He won't be getting to dictate the race, even if it does end up being a leader's bias track this week. He's got a bunch of other Waterhouse horses that will be ensuring he won't be leading this race and being able to dictate it. So even a place would probably shock me with this horse. So we move to Coleman, $41 to win, $7.50 to place.
Same here, coming out of the Pago, but Pretender.
Yeah, looked an early chance last year. He was one of those ones where he looked really impressive before Christmas, and they all went, yep, get him in the slipper. He's going to be a good chance, and he's done about nothing since. He couldn't even beat Double and Down last week, and I'd just look pretty silly if I'm saying Double and Down can't win, and Coleman could when he couldn't even beat him. So no Coleman for me, Pretender. We moved to Holmes Court, $61 to win, $9 to place in here because it was able to win the Black Opal.
Yeah, Pretender. It's lucky to get a run. I know it won the Black Opal, but that was, like you said, a pretty skinny field. Fully Lit couldn't get it done, and I said Fully Lit was a Pretender, so another Pretender here. Holmes Court managed to win that very thin Black Opal, like you said. Gets one of the world's best jockeys on. That's probably the only two positives there. A place would shock, let alone a win. And the reason I say Fully Lit has a better chance here, gets a better barrier. We'll take fitness from that. I think Fully Lit would have won that race if it wasn't for the fact that it was so long between runs. Pretender, Holmes Court. Number 12, Prost. Pretender. I think it can't get it done. Ran pretty good behind Stormboy last start, but I think that's as close as he's going to get to Stormboy. Exotics at best. If you want to put him in your exotics, I can respect that. But overall, there's better chances.
I'm going to say contender because tell me, Nick, he's a horse that only finishes a length and a half off Stormboy, who's at $2.15 right now. So how is this horse $34 to win and $7 to place? You've also got Adam Hieronymus on, who's arguably the most informed 2-year-old jockey this season, and who will be riding his absolute heart out to try and prove those who knocked him off Stormboy wrong. Apparently, he's very bullish on the horse's chances. Neil Payne has come out and said that, the stable rep for Waterhouse and Pot, for those who don't know that name. He's come out and said, yeah, I reckon Stormboy win and Prost second, because Adam keeps telling us he's a jet. He's been looking really good. I reckon, yeah, Prost will definitely be up there. I'm pretty sure if he didn't say it was second, he said it was coming third. He's put it in his trifecta. So, I mean, the camp's confident in it, the jockey's confident in it, and he has the form behind Stormboy. I mean, I think he's the best roughie in the race by a mile. Seriously overs. I'm looking forward to putting on a place bet for him. So we'll move to Hayasugi, mate, winner of the Blue Diamond, $16 to win, $4.40 to place.
I think the barrier kind of takes her out of it. Blue Diamond was a pretty good run. Jamie Carr obviously coming up to Sydney as well, but I just think there's better chances. Barrier doesn't help. Melbourne form doesn't help. So
yeah, Pretender. Blue Diamond winners for one. Doesn't usually always run that amazingly in the slipper. And then you've also got the most informed jockey in the country on her back, Jamie Carr. She's winning Group 1s left, right and centre, but the barrier kills the chances. She'll be running on late, but she's just going to get far too back to be able to win this. We move to Lady of Camelot, second in the Blue Diamond, $10 to win, $3.30 to place. Another Waterhouse chance.
Contender. I probably like this form a bit better out of any Melbourne horse coming out of it. It's had a run at Hawkesbury, a trial over at Hawkesbury in between, so it's come back up and it's run pretty nicely. It's won by 3 lengths, so it's got a bit of form. It's climatised back to Sydney. It hasn't travelled too badly, it seemed. Comes back. Blake Shin's not too bad of a jockey either, so we'll take it here. I think this is one of my favourite girls going into the 2-year-old after 2-year-old prep from the trials. Contender.
Yeah, contender for me. Arguably should have won the Blue Diamond if she didn't also have to chase some ridiculous sectionals. The question was, did that gut bust her? According to her trial, clearly not. She's ready to rock and roll. She's best chance of the girls by far. Gets Blake Shin, gets barrier 5. Both huge positives. Obviously, being a girl, gets a 2 kilo weight swing on the boys. She can surprise with a win here. Sorry, she can win without surprise for sure. As we move to Manal, another one of our favourite girls, but at $51 to win, $8.50. It's not looking like she's going to be winning here. What are your thoughts?
She was a genuine exotic chance for me until her barrier draw. 17th barrier really took her out of it. I think we both talked about it before we started recording, looking into the futures for this horse. The other 2-year-old kind of ones after this, it'll really run well, but I think the barrier takes out of it. It'll run for some prize money here.
Yeah, drawn an absolute Betty Crocker in the widest barrier here. It's a killer. It's a killer for any horse, let alone a horse that likes to get back a little bit. She'll be super strong late. Can't see her making her way into the money. At best third from that barrier. But I still think she's a massive chance of running well on the size and the Champagne, like you mentioned. I'm pretty sure you can still get great prices for her just to place in those races. So look for her there instead. Anisa, 100 to 1. Pretender or contender, mate?
Pretender.
Yeah, only positive is Damien Lane. Drawn absolutely terribly. Shocking form anyways. A win would be more shocking than 10 million volts to the face, I reckon. Then we get to who I think is a contender, but needs to gain a start. Someone needs to scratch for the first emergency. Espionage, $18, $4.80. Thoughts, mate?
I don't think so. Last run didn't give me anything, to be honest. Falling 4 lengths behind Switzerland. Just didn't do too well for me. Be surprised if it gets a run, if it does, but it's a pretender in my eyes.
I think that was more just the ride. It was a terrible ride there, and that's why the jockey was kicked off. Tommy Berry jumps on board, who's a Golden Super Guru himself. If you've got a futures ticket on him, don't rip it up just yet. If he makes the field, I think you could be on for a bit of a payout. I could see him potentially getting up and definitely placing. So if you've got an each way tick on him, don't rip it up until, it's confirmed he's not in the field. So, mate, we've gone through it all. Who's your tip?
I have to go with Storm Boy. I know it's pretty boring, and even if it wins, I know I won't get any credit for it because everyone's pretty much saying the same thing, and that's okay. But win is win, and that's the simple thing about horse racing. Just look the class above. I haven't seen a 2-year-old with this much class, and it's a lot of confidence there. And yeah, I'm pretty confident on this one. I just don't. I think out of any horses I see to change a lot of their history, I think Storm Boy is going to be one of the ones to do it. So I think my money isn't going to be on this race. Maybe a bit of an exotic play, but I won't be betting on this race because of Storm Boy. I think Storm Boy wins. And for the tip-off as well, I will be tipping Storm Boy. But punters, be careful. Don't go loading up on Storm Boy. It's not worth putting money into these kind of races, in my opinion. If you're confident and you have the money to lose, by all means, go for Storm Boy. It's an easy double up if you think so. But there's just so much that could go wrong, and the risk to reward factor, I think, isn't there for me. So Storm Boy wins in my mind.
You're 100% right. It's one of those races where you need to be getting on them early in the futures and locking in the Storm Boys at the 8s, 6s, 4s before he firms into that $2 on the day. And your Switzerland's your $100 into $40 into 20 into now $4.60. Because, again, we look at the last few years. King's Gambit was a shoe-in, came third. Cylinder was a shoe-in, came second. Coolangatta was a shoe-in, came second. So, it's not often that, these horses that get declared actually get up. But Switzerland. And I know a few months ago I declared that Gay Waterhouse was winning the slipper no matter what, just one of her horses were going to be getting up. But I think actually having this many runners might have done her under a bit, because I just think they're all going to push out. They're all going to be up the front setting, quite an interesting tempo there. And it's just going to set up for someone who's sitting off of it perfectly. And Switzerland's going to be that horse. Like I said, I think I agree with Bruce McAvaney that you come down to it. Switzerland Storm Boy are going to be those ones that break clear, and then it's whoever's best in that final 100 metres to get their head down on the line's going to win. But I think, Swooper over leader in this race just because of that tempo that's going to be set. I would love to get $5 plus for him. If he ever drifts above $5, I'll be locking that in, because $4.60 is still a little here nor there, considering, the open nature of this race. But I'm happy to take him. He'll be my tip. I'll also be having plays on Shangri-La Express, Straight Charge and Prost. You get about for Straight Charge? $3.50. For Prost, you get $7. And for Shangri-La, you get, I believe it was $5.50. Ridiculous prices for those horses who can all easily run into the money. I'll also, just in case she runs the trifecta, I'll be putting all the Gay horses into the trifecta. So that's how I'll be betting on the race. Mate, who do you think the top 4 across the line is?
I'll go Storm Boy win. I'll say, I'll put Switzerland in there. I'll put Lady of Camelot, and then I'll put Shangri-La Express.
Fair enough. I've got Switzerland, then Storm Boy, Prost to run 3rd, Shangri-La to run a narrow 4th. And I'm actually more interested to see where the rest of the horses finish, because, again, I think we're both pretty confident that Quinella is, on paper should be happening. I'll be very interested to see where the rest of the field ends up. And then again, if one of them runs a shocker and then Switzerland's running 10th or Storm Boy's running 10th, that'll be even more to discuss next week. But we don't know until the race has been run and won, mate. Is there anything to touch on?
I'm pretty happy with that. We'll wrap it up there, I think.
Okay, mate. Let's head to the Around the Grounds.